Okay, we had already called this February 17th meeting to order, and now we're going to begin the roll call. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Amy Lamb. Here. Councilmember Roisin O'Farrell.
Here.
Mayor Josh Amato.
Here.
Councilmember Kent Treen.
Present.
Councilmember Michael Boyer.
Here.
Councilmember Pamela Stewart.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Debbie Treen.
Here.
All right, thank you very much. Councilmember O'Farrell, will you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Lamb, if you could please read the land acknowledgement statement.
We acknowledge that we are on the indigenous land of Coast Salish peoples who have reserved treaty rights to this land, specifically the Snoqualmie Indian tribe. We thank these caretakers of this land who have lived and continue to live here since time immemorial.
Thank you very much. At this point, we're going to begin public comment. I'm going to be calling people up in the order that they wrote their names down in the sign-up sheet. If you could please, when you get to the podium, state your name and your city of residence. I always skip the approval of the agenda. All right. We'll begin public comment in just a moment. All right, so do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
So moved.
It's been moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the agenda passes, the motion carries 7-0. All right, now we begin public comment, and up first is Paul Stickney. And that is it for those who are signed in. So if you would also like to give public comment, you can line up behind Paul if you were in the room and did not sign up.
Hello, City Council members. Paul Stickney, Sammamish. I did drop off a couple handouts, not from me, but from Mary Wichter, who called me and said she was going out of town and could I come to the mail post and get her handouts for council. So she has something for you guys. A couple things. I sent in a couple things today. Going to spend very little time on one and a little more time on the other. I caught when I was putting together my weekly Sammamish Sync meeting that I do, I caught that the council presentation that was in the agenda packet wasn't the same as what was presented on your February 10th meeting. So I looked through it and saw some what I felt were pretty important slides that were left out. So I sent that in as a series to you guys, and my thought it was inadvertent. If it is, I would suggest adding those slides to the online civic web copy, but if it was intentional, which I'm not saying it was, would just like to understand who made that choice and why for those particular slides. So rather than go into the specifics, it's very clear what I turned in. I'd just like to get it checked and get an answer or to have that added. The other comment I sent in, and I know this is political, I know that, but I'm going to say it as fairly factual. No surveys that have been done in Sammamish have had the information we need to make actionable on what the right housing supplies are in the city. So I sent in something from 2 years ago survey that had the questions from the city, and those are the good questions. Take a look at those. But what I'm suggesting, I've been stating that we need to study housing need factors, economic and workforce and, demographic. But the survey is not the same thing. I know there are ways, but I don't know how. So I'm not going to get into the how-to. I'm going to talk about the what. We should quantify and get some data from our residents about their household size over time, what they think is going to happen, about their housing needs over time for planned and unplanned changes, and whether they want to stay in Sammamish. And whether it's a survey or some other means, we should get some actual, information for the residents in our community and what types of housing they would want over time and how it compares to what we have. So those were my 2 comments today. And thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone else in the audience would like to give a public comment? Okay, do we have anyone online?
We have one online. Per the reasonable accommodation policy, if you have pre-registered and wish to make a public comment, please raise your hand now. Mary, whenever you're ready.
Hi, this is Mary Wichter. I've been in Sammamish 25 years. Paul mentioned that he did put out 2 things that are just printouts of things that you've already received online. You can easily find these by searching for the word rewind, as in I'm rewinding back to public comment that was given. So your meeting last week, I had said that there were some things regarding fiscal sustainability, housing, and how you used your land use to do that. So one of the presentations is actually from Urban 3. They're a national organization. What they do is they take actual data from cities and counties, and they map it for municipal tax per acre. And so they have, like, for Highcroft in our city is large single-family homes on smaller lots. And then they have townhouses here, which those are up by the city. And then they have Sky Apartments, which is at the top of Southeast 4th. And then they have one small commercial, used to be Jack in the Box. It's a different hamburger joint now, down in the Safeway Plaza. And if you look at the bottom of those, you'll be able to see municipal tax per acre. And for single family homes, even large, even on small lots, it's under $7,000 an acre. And then it's about $18,000 for the townhomes, so they're much, much better. It's almost $43,000 for the apartment buildings, and it's about $8,400 for the small commercial. So I think that's really important to look at. This was presented by Framework, who is our consultant for Town Center, and they had spoken last year. This was a slide that they had added from Urban 3. So that information is in an email. I hope that you will rewind and review it. The second thing, which is a rewind, I call it Rewind 2, is information I had done from Bozeman, Montana. It shows 3 side-by-side ways to develop. This is sort of county sprawl where everything is just spread with low density. This one is in villages, so like they're smaller centers. And then the center one is the one that is fiscally efficient because it gives you the most money, requires the least roads, the least pipes, the least water, the least septics, that sort of thing. And so this information is very good. If it's too hard to read in the paper version, I'm sure you can go online and then you'll be able to make it whatever size you need. And then on the back side of that is a 3-dimensional graph. So you can see here the purple and the red. Those values are at about 3 million per acre up to about 30 million per acre. And you can see, like, this would be the central areas where a main street is in a town. And then the green and the yellow, which are pretty flat, those are the single family residences. So if we have a fiscal imbalance, which we do in the city, and we want to work on it, it's related to housing and how you use your land. And we're just not going to fix that without having a lot more income. So densifying instead of sprawling is much better for the environment, and it also puts you forward fiscally. So thank you for listening. I hope you'll look at the emails I sent.
Thank you very much. Anyone else online?
That's all.
Okay. Thank you. Up next is approval of the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
It's been moved, and we have one of the Treens. Do we have a second?
No, actually, I wanted to pull item 7 for a brief comment.
I'm sorry, let me clarify. Do you want to pull the minutes from the consent calendar?
Yeah, I have a correction to the minutes that I brought up to staff. I don't know if they've had a chance to look at it.
Okay. we can slot that in and make that new item 10. That's how that works, right? Okay, new item 10. So the minutes will move into 10. All right. So can I have a motion to approve the remaining items in the consent calendar?
So moved.
So moved.
Very good. Move from Councilmember O'Farrell, second from Deputy Mayor. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? All right, motion carries. Up next, we have item number 9, the 2026 Community Survey presented by Mike Sugg.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. My name is Mike Sugg, analyst in the City Manager's Office. And tonight we are here to present, talk about the upcoming Community Survey, which is on our work plan for this year. Okay, so community surveys, they're done by many cities as a way to benchmark resident sentiment on topics related to the government's performance. While we hear community feedback through a variety of methods such as public comment, email, and social media, and we conduct project-specific outreach at our events and through other means, that feedback is not typically statistically valid, nor is it representative of the community as a whole in many cases. So the survey is really one of the only ways that we have to collect a statistically valid survey to understand what our community thinks about the variety of issues that are under our purview. So on the slide here are a couple ways that the survey data can be used. Mainly it's to help to understand how the community is responding to the city's investments in terms of budget and work plan, measure progress under the council's goals, and to help us understand our position relative to our past survey results, as well as to that of other local governments. And the clicker's not working. Let me just highlight the slide there. There we go. Polko is the firm that the city used to conduct our past community surveys in 2016, 2018, and 2024. Their product is used by hundreds of cities across the nation, and it measures 10 facets, of community livability, which you can see on the screen. You'll notice those 10 facets line up pretty closely with council's goals as you discussed them at your retreat earlier this month. So the survey can help to provide us some insights as to how we're performing with respect to council's goals. The survey will be sent by Polko to 3,000 randomly selected households. The materials will be translated and include first a unique link to where they can complete the survey online, as well as a paper copy of the survey that includes a postage paid reply envelope. Polko aims for a 5% margin of error or lower, and the responses will be weighted based on census data to ensure they're representative of the community. And to ensure that all residents are able to voice their opinions, regardless of if they were selected for the mailed randomly selected survey or not, Polko will then open a open participation survey that anybody from the community can take that is not statistically valid, but it is still helpful for folks to be able to weigh in. And those results will be reported under a separate cover from the statistically valid results. So you can kind of compare those side by side. We're expecting that the survey would launch around mid-April with results expected sometime in June. Polko, for their standard survey, asks the same questions in every community. The purpose of this is to allow us to compare our results to our past surveys that we did in 2016, 2018, and 2024, as well as to compare our results to other communities across the nation that Polko has conducted the same survey for. Because the questions are standardized, however, that means that we are unable to tweak the language for those questions that are in Exhibit 1 of your packet tonight. However, there is an opportunity for the city to create some custom questions which I will touch on in the next slide. And the rest of the slide here shows some examples of the standard questions that they ask. This one is, these questions are related to safety. As mentioned, the city has an option to include 3 to 5 custom questions, depending on the length. While the standard questions are more evergreen, these custom questions allow council to get feedback on topics that may be more current. In 2024, council asked questions related to environmental sustainability, housing, and fiscal sustainability. I have slides on these prior custom questions if there's any interest in looking at them. They were also linked in the agenda bill tonight. Staff is seeking council's thoughts on which topics you would like to cover as part of the custom questions for the upcoming survey. You do not need to wordsmith from the dais tonight. We're really just looking for an idea of the topics that you'd like to cover. We can then take those, work with Polko to word those in a way that reduces bias and come back to you before moving forward. And I'll finish out the last slide and we'll just return here for discussion. So as mentioned, results are expected in June, just in time for discussions around the 27-28 budget and work plan. Once Polko's work is complete, they will come to council to present on the results and discuss them with you. We will also receive a detailed written report as well as a comprehensive dashboard that the public can view, and I've included a link to the 2024 dashboard on the slide here. And so for now, that is all I have. I'll go ahead and turn it back to you, Mayor Amato, if there are any questions or feedback on the prior slide.
All right, thank you, Mike. Up first, we've got Councilmember O'Farrell, and I can't see the Zoom screen, so I imagine there might be feedback there, but I'll start with Councilmember O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mayor. Mike, my questions were really for those 5 custom questions, just kind of suggestions around housing, kind of asking a question around housing choices. You know, if you were someone who wanted to downsize, do you feel you have housing choices in Sammamish? How long does the respondent feel that they're going to continue to live in Sammamish? I know we have somewhat of a question already in the survey, but it's like up to a 5-year period. I wonder, is it worth finding out about longer, like some kind of longevity question? Like how long do they see themselves living in Sammamish? What would cause them to leave? If they chose to retire in Sammamish, do they feel that we have like desirable housing types on offer? And then the last thing I had was, you know, around services and public amenities. What services and public amenities would you like or are missing in Sammamish? So I didn't know quite how to say it without wordsmithing. So that's kind of the general topic around housing, downsizing, capabilities, and missing services and amenities.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilmember Lamb.
Thank you, Mayor. I had 3 questions I'd like to add for the custom. The first one is emergency preparedness. It's how prepared people feel in an event of emergency, particularly around evacuations. The second one is knowing we have a budget issue. Can we put a question out to rank what services the residents would be willing to cut, like in what order? And then the third one is knowing that our solid waste contract is up, coming up in 2028. And I'd like a question regarding, do residents feel as though they have enough options in terms of service? Particularly, I'm interested in every other week service. So could a question be framed up in, do you feel like would you be interested in every other week service? Or would you, would every other week service work for you? As sort of the basic service as a way to reduce costs. I know, something along those lines.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Lamb.
Thanks.
Councilmember Boyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I get into the questions, I was just wondering, Mike, and I didn't see it on here, what was the response rate from the last survey?
Of the 3,000 households that received a mailed invitation to take the survey, I believe approximately 320 households responded. It was about 11% response rate. That met the consultant's desired 5% margin of error. So for every question that they asked, there was a 5% or better
Yeah.
margin of error.
But it was 11%.
It was 11%.
Okay. Okay. I guess in terms of questions to ask, just some feedback. I guess I would propose, and I don't know if they can handle, how this company does this, but I don't think that the 5-point Likert scale that they use is effective. And what I mean by that is when you ask questions like neighborliness is high, medium, or low, that doesn't do much for me, honestly. Or when you say street lighting is excellent, good, or poor, some people like it dark, some people like it bright. My neighbors would never agree on our street lighting, so I just don't know. It would probably be regression to the mean is what I suspect would happen. Or, one of them is cost of living is excellent, good, or poor. I don't know how someone would answer that. Maybe recent lottery win or not. I'm not sure. But what I would recommend is if they're able to do some type of a conjoint or discrete choice. And what that means is you give them, for example, environmental, strict protection, no tree net, but there's trade-offs, lower development, or flexible growth, meaning some canopy, and give them a choice between the two so they can make a trade-off. Because otherwise you say, hey, I don't want all my trees. Yes. Hey, do I want everything free? Yes. Hey, I don't think it helps us much when we ask those type of questions. So the categories I'm talking about would be environmental, transportation, fiscal policy, housing policy, and then town center specific, a town center strategy. So I don't want to take up more time on a dais, but I can email you what I mean by a conjoint or discrete choice methodology. And what would happen is that the residents would then choose one or the other, and then we would get a sense of directionally what they're talking about, because they will have to make the same trade-offs that we would have to make. And so I'd be happy to send those to you rather than trying to formulate them here, because I can give you the sense of it, and then you guys can formulate that. Okay?
That'd be helpful. Thank you, Councilmember Boyer. Just for clarification, with this different approach to the questions, was that referring to the custom questions or kind of the standard?
Oh, the custom.
Oh,
yeah, the
yep.
standard ones,
It is what it is.
it is what it is, and you've got years worth of stuff, and then we'd have no relative comparison. So I don't want to take that away. It's just for the custom ones. And again, I that doesn't mean that I'm in favor of the standard format that we're using now, because I'm not sure how helpful it is. It's for the 5 custom.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's some flexibility in how we ask those, so it'd be great to see what you're proposing.
Yeah, I don't know how flexible they are, if they have a standard format and they just plug in a few words and then the rest of the 5-point Likert takes over from there. But it'd be great to see if we could get better information.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah. One, I agree with Michael. I think we have to give people trade-offs, because I think even in the past surveys, I think we got feedback that nobody wanted to lower the levels of service, but they also didn't want to pay more taxes. And we know that those two things are at this point mutually exclusive. So I think having some of those comparison choices of, like, you can have this and this, or you can have this and this, would be super helpful. And I really like the questions that Councilmember O'Farrell proposed along those lines around, how long do people plan to stay? And, what are the things that they would need to stay around, housing choices and things. I think those are great questions, because we do have anecdotal data around, people leaving and why they leave, but I think we need more statistically valid data. And just as a point of reference, what is a good survey response rate? Because 11% sounds really low, but I think that's pretty good, but I'd like to know more scientifically if that's a good rate of response.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Stewart. I think what the consultant's trying to do, from my understanding, is hit a margin of error of between 4 to 6%. That's what they find a good margin of error. And so a response rate that meets that in their eyes would be a good response rate to hit. And so 11%, with 11% response rate, we did hit that 5% margin of error. So for them, that was a good result.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay, Councilmember Treen.
Thanks, Josh. It's Kent. Mayor Amato, thank you very much. So first, I would just like to say that I think my direction at this point for the survey would be just to move it to next year. And so the idea being that we just had an election, and in the, following an election, we have a lot of data, a lot of points of knowledge at this point. And so I think the survey would suit the city better if it was done on odd years. So it seems like a good time to actually do that, and it's just to move it to next year. If the council chooses not to do that and keep it for this year, when it comes to the keep it. So we're asking the same questions, but the 5 questions or 3 questions that you would present is definitely need to talk about taxation and how that relates to the budget. Or I think Councilmember Boyer talked about it as the finance question. And then the other, if you're going to do the housing styles choices kind of thing, it'd be good to know if we have a statistically valid survey if apartments is something that the residents of Sammamish want here in the city. And I directly have a question that would ask about apartment living. Because we are a bedroom community, it would be interesting to just find out what the majority of people think about having a bunch of apartments in our centers. With that, yield back the floor to the mayor.
Okay, if there's no one else, I've got some questions. If I can go and then you come back around. Okay. So margin of error means that the question could be plus or minus the response rate. And given the trend line that shows, like I don't see a lot of value in what we're getting from this. There's not a lot of nuance given to us in decision making with this survey. So my one question is, do we have any examples of how, not one question, a question, of any examples of how this survey data was used in decision-making process, particularly related to starting, stopping, or adjusting programming or budget levels?
Yeah, it's a great question, Mayor Amato. I don't have any specific examples offhand, but I know that when I spoke with our deputy city manager, she mentioned that the racial equity team had used some data from the survey in order to inform the work that they were doing for the racial equity toolkit. So I think there is some use around the city for the data, but in terms of the linear, this data resulted in this change. I don't have a great example for you at this moment.
Okay. I guess I have a problem with us paying for this survey at all. The response, it cost us about $70 per response, which is a lot of money. We send out a newsletter every other month to every household, and there's nothing that stops us from putting out a survey every time with questions pertinent to what we're dealing with. It gives people more of an opportunity to give us the nuance that we need to make important decisions. We get emails regularly from residents related to their roads or issues with permitting, edge cases that are exceptionally important in our decision-making process. And I don't see this survey doing much of anything other than giving us an opportunity to pat ourselves on the back for having a really great city, which the survey says that we do. And we could lose 10 to 20 points in a lot of these sections and still have a really great city that outperforms a lot of other cities this company is using in the baseline. So with budget issues that we've got, I don't support spending $30,000 to get survey data. We could all look at the past results and get probably all come really close to getting within the margin of error of what we're going to get after we send this out anyway. And the 5 question responses, the 5 questions that we're able to send out, I don't think is worth the money anyway. I think they're good questions that we need the answer to. I think there are other ways for us to go about getting them that are relatively low cost and provide our residents significantly more opportunity to give the council feedback. So I don't support putting this this survey in the field. And then with that, I'll go to Councilmember Boyer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would agree with Mr. Mayor's assessment. As a decision-making tool, surveys are not. These are, as you said in your slides too, which is I was looking for. It's a diagnostic tool, right? It doesn't help us set policy, and it should not. They are very poor at that. Surveys like this, they really serve symbolic or political functions mainly. And so I guess if you want to do that for what, 70,000, whatever the price tag is, $30,000, yeah, we could probably spend that more wisely. Even though we say it's a 95% confidence interval, meaning 95% of the time we're plus or minus assured that it's the right answer, statistical significance doesn't equal representativeness. Those are very different things. Typically, if I want to believe in a survey, even if I'm doing research, if I don't have a 20 to 30% response rate, I'm not going to believe it, even though it might be statistically significant. And so those are two very different things. So I might even say, oh, it's statistically significant. However, it's not representative. And when it's not representative, now we've got a lot of problems with that. I don't know what we would do with it differently. I certainly wouldn't use it to make policy decision or help us with any of those things because, like I said, some of the examples don't help me. They are not offsetting in terms of is my lighting excellent or poor across the entire city, plus or minus. It won't help me to determine that. I think there's much better ways to do that. I also question the randomness of the distribution. I don't know how they do that randomly. I don't know if you do either, Mike, and how the company does that. But even with that, you'd have to have some strict assurance that it is absolutely randomized, or we're going to struggle with what it really means. I think sometimes it's used to forward and justify whatever you want it to, whatever you believe in. And so I fear that might not be useful to us when we could use many other means to accomplish the same thing. And I'm speaking to you, Mike, as if this is your survey and that you chose this, and I'm not. But you're the one presenting this and gathering the information, so I'm just letting you know my thoughts on that. So thank you for that, and thank you for letting me express more, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely. I think I saw Councilmember Stewart's hand go up, and then we've got Councilmember Lamb.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate all of the feedback. I want to make sure we're not, doing the proverbial throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I think that one, in terms of the timing, having the timing come as we move into the budget season is the right timing. I think if we have concerns about response rates, instead of saying, kill the survey, let's figure out how we get better response rates. I think it's really important to get these randomized, and I think Councilmember Boyer's question is fair, but I think before we make a decision based on that, we should get the answer to how do they assure the randomness, because I believe that came up the last time we talked about this, and I just don't remember the answer. So I think it's important that we get all the information, but having a survey that goes out and we can get information, more detailed information. While elections are very interesting, we know that they are driven by a lot of different things. And what we really want to hear from people is not like I had to choose one person over the other, but what do they feel about on very specific issues? And, we know that oftentimes people will vote on one issue, but that doesn't mean they agree with a particular candidate on everything else. And this isn't about politics. This is about getting good data from people that don't necessarily come and give us public comment. While we do get public comment and we do get emails, again, from a response rate, if you're talking about how significant and representative is that, it's not. It's important and we value it very much, but it is definitely not representative of our entire city. I think the other thing to look at in the response data is the demographic information. And I think we have geographic breakdowns as well as other information about the people who are responding so that we can see that it is more representative and a cross section of our city. So I would recommend that instead of we just say, I don't like it, let's get rid of it, let's fix it and make it more useful. Because I do think hearing from people on very specific issues, most of the time when we hear from people, it's just about things they're upset about. We don't often hear from people when they agree with what we're doing. And I think we need to hear both of those things. And I think a well-done survey can give us that information. So I would encourage this council before we just kill something to say, if it's not doing exactly what we want, let's try to fix it and not just get rid of it. Just relying on, the people who show up. Oftentimes the people who show up are the people that someone's reached out to and invited them to come, or, they've been sort of poked on social media. And those are not the best ways for us to be getting information from our entire community, especially those who might have small children and are really busy and don't have a lot of time to do this, but they might have time to fill out a survey. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lamb.
Yeah, thank you. I think there are some questions that may not be incredibly helpful in this survey, just like Councilmember Boyer said, but I do think on the whole, it is up to council to have the right custom questions that will help drive those policy decisions, and that is totally within our power. For example, if we do need to cut services due to budget reasons, how do we know what to cut? How do we know what the residents prioritize? We don't know how residents feel in terms of emergency preparedness. And with the solid waste contract that's coming up, those are 8-year contracts. They're worth millions of dollars. And it is a service that our residents rely on every week. And before a solid waste contract is signed, other cities do send out a survey to understand what they prioritize in terms of services. So that all three of these would drive policy decisions. So I think it's really important to keep this survey unless there's an alternative, and I don't really see an alternative right now. So I would prefer to keep the survey and make sure that the custom questions are the questions that will help us drive the policy decisions.
Thank you. Councilmember O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mayor. I know it's not perfect, but I'm supportive of doing the survey. I think it's another opportunity to get some data on our residents, and it's really difficult to get reliable data on how our residents are feeling on various issues, as has just already been mentioned. I know it's not perfect, and I take what Councilmember Boyer was saying about some of the questions. I'll be interested to see what our custom questions can generate. And I think it's not the only thing I'm sure that we rely on to make decisions, but it is a data point that we need. So I'm supportive of continuing it, and this will be our fourth survey going out, right? So that we may have some comparable data points to look back on. I think we should keep going forward with that, even though it's not perfect.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I actually really like the mayor's suggestion that we use our newsletter to solicit feedback from residents. That goes out to a lot of people, every household. And, I don't think we need a survey every 2 years, but and I would really love to see the analysis of the surveys that have been done up to now and see what kind of variances we're getting or different responses we're getting. But I really like the mayor's suggestion of reaching out directly. We can customize those questions to the issues we're dealing with right then and make them really be meaningful to the residents and an opportunity for them to weigh in. Not just on the general stuff going on, but on specific issues that matter to us. I guess with that, I would move that we not conduct the survey this year.
Okay, there's been a motion to cancel the survey for this year. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to cancel the survey for 2026. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, I'm just going to reiterate that, we have, and we've talked about this a number of times, we have a very large number of residents here who can't vote. And so being able to hear from them, right, they pay taxes, they live here, we need to serve them as well. I think that we can talk about fixing the survey, but I think it's very premature to talk about canceling it altogether. If you feel like it needs improvement, then let's improve it. I think it's very ill-advised to go into this without getting as much data as possible. We don't have, I think Councilmember Lamb and Councilmember Boyer's suggestions together about, asking about raising taxes versus services. And then if they say they don't want to raise their taxes, then asking them, to stack rank what services are most important or what services would they be willing to see us lower the standard on or to eliminate altogether. That's information that we can use to make policy decisions. And I think that that's critical information. And that's not information that we get in other means. I think if we're going to talk about using the newsletter, I'm not opposed to that, but let's dig deeper on that before we kill this survey. Let's dig deeper on how would that work? Would it still be statistically significant if we send it out every month? Is it the same questions every single month, or is it different? What does that mean statistically around gathering data? So I think that there's a lot more to do before we just pull the plug on something. And I guess I'm a little bit taken aback by this and surprised that instead of talking about how we make something better, we're just talking about killing it altogether when it can be such a crucial way of gathering data.
Councilmember O'Farrell.
Yeah, this survey will cost us about $30,000. If we were to even entertain putting our own survey into the newsletter, do we imagine that would cost us any less? If we were to reproduce our own questions, print up the cards, pop them in the newsletter, wait for the cards to come back, and then we would have to analyze the data ourselves or send it out somewhere to be analyzed, I can't imagine we would get. Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe such an undertaking would still cost us $30,000, if maybe more. So I'm not so sure there's economic value with that vote. And if there is, if I'm wrong in that, I would have to know that information before I could support this motion. Thank you.
It was Councilmember Treen.
Yeah, thank you. So the motion was to not do it this year. So it's not a kill. And we knew back even in 24 that it had its flaws. But I'm in support of the motion because do it next year. And then we can work on the 5 questions and move forward with the survey. And so we do it every 3 years. It seems to be a nice compromise. I'm kind of surprised myself that was my initial thought on this, and that it also seems to be the middle of the road on this current council. Seems like I'm sitting in the middle of the road. So it's not a total kill of it, but it would definitely just delay it to next year. We bring it back next year and make a decision then once the new council has a little more information on what the importance of it is and how it works within the whole system, because I think there's definitely new ideas that are going to come down the pike, here on how to communicate and have the residents' voices be heard by this new council. So I'm in support of the motion, and thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Lamb.
So we're heading into the new biennium. I think it would be really helpful to have this information as we're discussing the budget for the coming biennium. And also, this survey is in 3 languages. I'm not hearing anything being proposed that would include translations into the 3 languages. And so therefore, I think it's also exclusionary if we don't do this survey. Thanks.
Councilmember Boyer.
I move that the motion be amended by delaying this current survey, noting the multiple comments by council members to improve. Many of the questions that were brought up here are superior to what's in the survey. I agree that we can't let perfect be the enemy of good. However, I think that we can.
I'm sorry. Can you please just state the motion, and then we'll get to a second, and then us talking to it.
Yeah, I amend the motion to delay the survey for this year and improve.
Okay, so the motion on the floor to the amendment to the motion would change the meaning of the original motion, and we would delay to a point in time in the future the 2026 survey. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Boyer, would you like to speak to your amendment?
Sorry about that, Mr. Mayor. I think it did. I think we can do better. And as far as timing, I'm sure if this organization or our staff can come up with a better tool, I think we would. It would be money better spent and information that would be useful to the community and to the council. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe you. Okay, so I support I support completely canceling it, but I'll support the amendment here because I think we can find a better overall solution. I agree with what many of the other council members have said about getting good information from residents. I disagree that this survey is the way to go about it. I sat through the presentation for this company a couple years ago, and there's very little movement on what we can do and how we can ask questions. It's really limited, and I don't think it gives us the information we need to really make budgetary decisions. And if we look at the previous questions the council had asked, it's a lot of the more complex ones are divided 20%, 20%, 20%, which tells us that they did not understand the question or the details behind it, which is why we're elected to look at all those details and make those tough calls after having all the information presented to us. We can't expect residents to do that for us. So I am in support of this amendment. I see Councilmember O'Farrell, I think you had your light on before, and then Councilmember Stewart. Are you speaking to this amendment that's on the floor right now? Okay, I'll call on Councilmember Stewart first and then O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I ask a question, Mike? What's the timing? When would we have to have any updates or changes done in order to get the survey out this year?
It just depends on when we'd like to get the results back. It takes them roughly 3 to 4 months, I would say, from when we initiate the process to when they deliver the results. So I think they're pretty flexible as to whenever we start it, they'll deliver them about 3 to 4 months later.
So it feels like we still have an opportunity to talk about and work on this survey before we make a decision to punt it or kill it. And I feel like we owe it to each other, as well as our residents, especially given what Councilmember Lamb brought up around our newsletter is not translated. And most things that we send out are not translated into multiple languages. And if we really are interested in what everyone in the community has to say, then I feel like we ought to try to see if we can't, as a council, make the changes that we want to, and make this better and get us the information we want before we just punt it. In speaking to timing, I would say that the election was last year, and while we have new council members, if we do it next year, we'd be doing it in the middle of an election. And I don't know if that's better timing or not. It feels like doing it this year when we're not in the middle of an election, and because it aligns the timing with the budgeting. But this feels like a better timing to collect the data. So I would really love it if my fellow council members would say, "Hey, we all agree we need to make improvements, but just punting this right now without having any opportunity to say, could we make it what we think it needs to be, seems really premature and almost like we don't want to hear from the residents before we make the next budget." And I don't think that's what people mean, but that's what it feels like. Thanks.
I'm sorry, we've got, I think, Carrie, our city attorney, did you have something to?
Yes, I wanted to just make a comment, and Mayor, Council, forgive me if I've got this wrong, but it seems the main motion and the amendment are incompatible. As I understand the main motion, it's to cancel the 2026 survey, and the amendment is to postpone the 2026 survey indefinitely. So you always vote first on an amendment, and then in this case, there would be no need to vote on the main motion. So procedurally, to correct this, I'm wondering if the maker of the original motion, I believe it was Councilmember Kent Treen, if he would agree to withdraw that, or how council wants to resolve the incompatibility.
That's you, Daddy.
Thank you. Thank you, City Attorney. I was the one who made the original motion, and I will withdraw my motion.
If that's okay with council, usually the person who
approval of
seconded
that.
it also has to agree to that. So I just want to make sure that procedurally, we're going to only focus on the amendment, which is postpone the 2026 survey indefinitely, is what I thought I heard.
Yes, so Councilmember, I think it was Councilmember Boyer who made the second on
Okay.
that. So
Are you okay with withdrawing the main
I
motion?
withdraw my second.
Okay, great. Thank you. So now the council is just deliberating on the, on one motion only. We were calling it originally an amendment, but it's to postpone the 2026 survey indefinitely.
okay. Councilmember O'Farrell.
That actually was my question, because I was very confused as to what we were really voting about. So if we were going to vote to postpone this indefinitely, that sounds like, so what does that mean? Are we going to come back and revisit this another time? Is this, like, because indefinitely could be anything. There's no time frame. So that just feels like, it sounds like another word for cancelling it altogether. So I just kind of I would like to know what indefinitely means. And that we're going to come back and revisit this subject, because maybe it's just the survey is definitely not a perfect vehicle, but it's another vehicle from which we get feedback from the public. And I don't think that's something that we should be cancelling without an actual game plan to come back and revisit at a very definite time. And then if we're going to do our own version of this survey, we need to make sure that that is cost effective. If that's the biggest issue with this current survey, is its cost effectiveness. We might find that this newer suggestion might be even more expensive. So I just kind of want to know what indefinitely means. Thank you.
So if I can, as soon as the council would desire to bring it back up, I suppose it could come up at the next council meeting. However, if we were to vote to cancel it, the only way to bring it back would be if somebody on the prevailing side were to want to reconsider.
Well, could that be added to the motion, that it's to be brought back to council at X date? Because I just feel if we don't have that, it will just get lost, and it'll be just something we'll forget to discuss. And as Councilmember Lamb said, in light of the budget discussions we're going to have too.
Let me get to Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, actually, I was channeling Councilmember O'Farrell, and I was going to propose an amendment to what is now the motion on the floor, which is that we postpone the survey for 1 month, and we add this as an agenda item to our upcoming meetings until such time as we can come to an agreement on what should be changed and or added to the survey, and can revisit a final decision at that time in 1 month.
Okay, there's been an amendment offered to push this out for 1 month, adding it to the agenda until we come up to a final resolution on the survey. Is there a
Second?
second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
And I'll just speak to that very quickly. I think that gives us a chance to gather all the feedback. I think Councilmember Boyer said that he would put together an email with what sounded like some great suggestions. I think those are all worth considering. I think there's some data that we can all go back and take another look at in terms of the randomness and the, are we really getting representation from the survey, and what other things we might want to change. And in a month's time, everything can be revisited again, but this gives us all a chance, again, to try to not let perfect be the enemy of good. And it sounds like we have a lot of great ideas on how to make this better and get us better information. And I think we should give ourselves and our residents a chance to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Boyer. I'm sorry, are you speaking to the amendment?
I'm looking for some clarity on the amendment. Make sure I understand if this is to actually delay and then revisit on an improved approach to community input in a month. Is that accurate?
I would say that wasn't totally my intention, but that is what it would lead to. It would give us a chance to actually get more information, propose our ideas, and have it on future agendas over the course of the next month. And then we can decide in a month's time what the appropriate approach is, as opposed to just punting this indefinitely. This may still be our best option, but to Councilmember O'Farrell's point, we don't know what these other options really are, if they're going to provide any decent information, and we have no idea how much they will cost. So just punting this indefinitely and having no other plan in place, given that we need data in order to make a good budget, feels ill-advised. So I think by the intent of my amendment was to just buy us time and get some more information and have more discussions before we make a final decision.
Okay, I see no other lights up. So with that, we will go ahead and vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
Abstentions? Okay, the motion carries 5-2. Okay.
Can we get clarity? So so we're bringing it back in a month. Is that what we just voted for?
No, we're going to bring it up in future council meetings over the course of the next month.
We're going to continue. Okay. So yeah, we'll continue working on this until we can come to an agreement, whatever that agreement looks like.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and so City Attorney, the motion now kind of, did that override the main motion? Should we vote on the main motion, which is now just the amendment?
Essentially, effectively. However, I think it's important, especially for our minutes, to get clarity on the amendment. So I heard that it was delaying the discussion for a month. You do have a meeting on March 17th, a month from now, St. Patrick's Day. So it's my understanding that in the meantime, staff's going to gather more information about cost, and you're going to maybe have a chance to submit refined questions, and then have the discussion continue on March 17th and thereafter until council reaches consensus about this topic. That's how I understood the amendment. Perhaps I misunderstood.
I think that is what the understanding was.
Okay, if that is the council's intent, then there really is no need to vote on the underlying motion. I think that it is captured within the amendment. So thank you for clarifying.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, everybody, for that lively discussion. We'll move on to new item 10, review of the, and thank you, Mike, for your efforts on this presentation and working with us through those rounds.
Absolutely. Thank you, Council.
The minutes
Point of
that we
order.
pulled.
Point of order.
State your point.
Yeah, so if the last one we had, the last motion and amendment had to be returned back to retract it, I'm curious as to why we didn't have to just do that on this one, because you literally changed the outcome of the initial motion. So what I've heard so far from the city attorney is two different, the same issue is going on, but has ruled differently on the same topic.
So
What is the real way that Robert's rules say we should handle this situation?
Mayor, I'm happy to explain the difference. So
Please.
the first time it was incompatible because the main motion was to cancel outright the survey. And then the amendment for that one was to postpone it. And so if the council majority had voted to postpone, then there would have been, it would have been incompatible with canceling it. And so those were incompatible. What happened the sort of second go around was that the main motion instead turned into postpone the 2026 survey indefinitely. And then there was an amendment in a second to instead postpone the discussion to a date certain, a month from now, March 17th. And that's not incompatible with the indefinite postponement. What it does is it changes from indefinite to a date certain.
So my understanding of Robert's rules best practices that we would still then vote on the motion, original motion.
And council could certainly do that. It would be redundant, but you can certainly do that.
Well, it's best practices, so I think, Mayor, that we should be doing that. You should still be voting on the main motion, even though it's been as amended. We would vote on the main, hi, Mayor, that's the language would be, we would be voting on the main motion as amended, and you would ask for a yay, nay, and abstention. That would be the proper point of order. That's why I'm calling point of order. There's an operation here that should be followed, and it doesn't seem like we're following it. Thank you.
Yep. So I haven't memorized the book quite yet, but I believe your point is well taken and that you are technically correct. However, I think the council's previously been a little bit more loose with some of those rules when the intent is very clear. However, I will, for making it abundantly clear, we will now vote on the main motion as amended to postpone. Do you have it written down, City Attorney, yet? Okay.
We don't have it written down, but the main motion as amended is to postpone the 2026 survey discussion for 1 month until the March 17th council meeting. And to continue the discussion then and thereafter as needed until council reaches a majority consensus.
Okay, I think that does get to that. So
Wasn't that the amended?
yes. So when you've got a motion and then it's amended, you vote on the amendment, then you vote on the main motion. And we skipped the main motion portion because it was effectively not adjusting or changing a small portion. It overrode the entire motion. But we will now vote on the main motion as amended. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Nay.
Nay.
Abstentions? None. Motion carries 5-2. Thank you. Okay, now we will move on to item 10, the minutes from February 3rd, 2026. Deputy Mayor, you would pull this if you would like to speak to your concern.
Yes, thank you. My recollection of the minutes from that discussion about the code amendments that were being adopted is that Councilmember Stewart and I had brought up 3 other areas of code amendment that I thought we voted on and agreed to forward back to the Planning Commission to reevaluate and bring back to the council for potential future amendments. But I didn't see any reference to that discussion or that motion. It just showed us adopting the code amendments that were proposed.
So I don't know if the city manager has prepared for that. My recollection was we gave unofficial direction through looks and head nods after talking about it, but it wasn't part of a motion. So I don't know if we record those sorts of things in the minutes. And the city clerk, I thought I saw your light turn on.
Yes, I just wanted to provide some clarification in reviewing the minutes today and the transcript and recording. The motion was recorded accurately in the minutes based on the transcript and the recording. And I did forward that on to Deputy Mayor Trains to review, but we can always add the minutes back to a future meeting after those have been able to be reviewed some more if they like.
Oh, thank you, Amber. I see the email that you sent. I'll take a look at it. I just feel like I read our minutes and quite often it's really unclear what actually took place at the meeting. And I think the 3 areas that we identified as concerns of the council, really should be acknowledged in the minutes. But I'll read what you sent out and go from there.
Mr. City Attorney. Mr. City Manager.
Hey, I got a glow up. That's awesome. Just for clarification for council and the deputy mayor, the minutes are designed to just be action minutes. They're not full minutes. So they just reflect the actions that are taken rather than all of the dialogue that goes into the decision point.
Okay, if there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion to approve the February 3rd, 2026 regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, everybody. Up next, we've got executive session. And this will be to discuss with legal counsel potential litigation pursuant to RCW 42.30.110(1) subsection I. We believe we'll be there for about 20 minutes. The council is not anticipated to take action and will be returning at 8:02. The council's going to extend executive session for 10 minutes. We'll return at 8:12 p.m. All right, the council is back. It's 8:10 from executive session. We're going to move to council reports. And I'll start the left of the dais. Councilmember Lamb.
I didn't have my hand up, but the chambers is empty, but I did want to mention today's the first day of Ramadan, so happy Ramadan. And it is also Lunar New Year, so happy New Year to those that celebrate.
Councilmember O'Farrell? No. Okay, so I've got one. I believe the city manager emailed out this letter from Issaquah, draft letter from Issaquah to the Sound Transit Board asking them to proceed, to not cancel, to not delay as much as possible the Sound Transit line going to Issaquah. Mayor Mullet is having cities up north sign, and I met with him today and talked to him about it, and this is something I think we should consider. Our residents will certainly be relying on that line, and if it is delayed, we're going to, have some challenges. So all I'm asking is council consensus on us signing on to that letter. There will have to be some wordsmithing on the draft you received because it mentions, I believe, that the undersigned are outside of the RTA, which we are not. So we'll just need to adjust that a little bit, but otherwise the language stands. So if there's no objections, I'll work with the city manager's office to get that letter signed.
Clarification, just so I understand, reading the letter, I'm not sure if I understand why it's necessary. I thought the project was going forward. What does the letter do that's not already happening?
I think there's a question about the timing of the project because there's been some issues elsewhere with the light rail projects. And so I think the question that the Sound Transit Board is, and it looks like the city manager might have some thoughts on that, but it basically to try to keep us top of mind for continuing on with the project.
Just for further clarification, thank you, Mayor. Money is tight and there's not a lot of it. So when that starts happening, then the projects that are farther out tend to be the ones that are on the menu as opposed to next to get built. So I think there's a desire from our partners in Issaquah to keep the feet to the fire on that and make sure that it continues to be front and center.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Councilmember Stewart.
Yeah, I'm totally supportive of that. Just for clarification, I do believe that our city is partially in the RTA and partially not. So just.
I believe it's the crest that was carved out. I don't know if there's any other part of Sammamish that's not inside, but I'm happy to learn more.
Yeah, just if we're wordsmithing, just make sure we don't blunder something. So thanks for bringing this up, Mayor.
For sure. And then just for awareness, I met with Mayor Mullet and the Snoqualmie representative from the Snoqualmie tribe this morning and had a hour-long meeting that we're going to continue to have once a month. And this morning, no real business was discussed other than getting to know each other. So that's all I've got. Councilmember Boyer. All right, Councilmember Stewart.
We had our EFR meeting. Nothing super exciting. We did pass our priorities and work plan for the upcoming year. But that's about it.
And Councilmember Treen. Deputy Mayor.
Sorry about that. I'm flipping around through my notes. I just wanted to report that I'm going to be attending a Lights Out documentary that deals with the impact of streetlights and whatnot and houses having lights on the impact on newly hatched fish and migrating birds. It's sponsored by the East Side Audubon Society on Saturday. And that's really it. Attended a bunch of new meetings this week or last week, but I reported on those already and sent you emails with agendas and attachments.
I'm good.
Councilmember O'Farrell.
Thank you, Mayor. Just quickly, I just wanted to let everyone know that Mayor and Councilmember Lamb, Councilmember Stewart and I attended the Sammamish Mosque I believe it was on Saturday, for kind of an open community invitation, and it was really a kind of a getting to know you and getting to know our Muslim community, and it was a really wonderful experience. We were there for about 2 hours, and we had some delicious food, and we kind of got to know members of the community. There was members of the Sammamish Police Department were there, and members of IFA were there, and it was just a really nice event. So look forward to attending more of those. And I've been reminded by Councilmember Lamb that we also, most of us, all the council members attending tonight, were at Lens of Youth at the Sammamish Library on Saturday afternoon. That's such a wonderful organisation that's come out of our junior students out of our high schools, and it's an organisation where they're using their artistic talents to shine a light on members of our community in the who have developmental disabilities, and that was a really wonderful event to be at, and look forward to attending more of those too.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I will be brief. Just a note that it looks like we might have some white precipitation tonight, possibly, or freezing. So the crews will be out very early assessing, and if treatment is required, they will be out doing that. Just want to let everyone know to please be safe tonight, and if you're out driving around early in the morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good evening.
Perfect.
While I'm getting this ready, I also forgot to mention that we had 4 other